things that we do not do in Superior Court is rush through anything that we have to address. And there were some matters that we needed to address before we got to you this morning. Those matters have now been addressed, so we're really ready to get into the process of jury selection. I want to thank you for your patience on that. I want to thank you for your patience to this point. I also want to thank you for your patience as we move you through this process. The process itself, jury selection, in this particular case, moves in two stages. What's going to occur here in this room is that we're going to swear you in as a panel. I'm going to ask you a couple general questions, but then the state and the defense are going to have an opportunity to ask what we call general questions. I ask that you respond to all of the questions that are being asked to the best of your ability. Anything that you think may apply to you, make sure you respond to it. And importantly, if there's anything that you don't feel comfortable responding to in front of the group, let me know, and we'll go ahead and figure out some way to address getting that into the record in the case and make sure that you're as comfortable as possible as we move through the process. Everything that we're doing here is being taken down by the court reporter who's sitting over here to my left. So I need for you to speak up when you are responding here in this room. The acoustics are okay in this room. We can usually hear what's going on, but I think we need you to speak up a little bit so that the court reporter can hear you, so that I can hear you, and so that everybody else in the room understands your responses. And also, as we're going through the questions, you're going to be referred to by the numbers on your chest. Now, we don't use names. It's easier when we go back into transcripts to figure out who was speaking by simply referring to numbers. But then also importantly, in this case, and really in most cases in the Superior Court, we do what we can to make sure that the jurors have some anonymity. And in this particular case, we're doing that, one, by referring to everybody by number. We're also not allowing any images of any jurors to be published or any personal information that you volunteer to be pushed out there into the general public. And the reason we're doing that is because we want you to be candid. We want to make sure that we understand your responses to questions, because what we're seeking in this case is relatively simple. We're seeking individuals who can sit on a trial jury that can listen to the evidence and in an unbiased, fair, and impartial way reach a verdict. It seems like a very simple process, but it does require some inquiry, and again, we do ask for your candor. So again, what's going to happen is we're going to do questions in here. Then once that general questioning is done, there's probably going to be some follow-up with individuals. That follow-up is done in the adjoining courtroom, and we do that individually so that you're more comfortable volunteering information. What that means is that the group of you may be sitting here for a little while. And when I say a little while, based on our experience in this particular case, what that means is the day. This process is going to take a good chunk, if not all of the day. So just please be aware of that as we move through this. We are trying to move through this efficiently, but again, we don't do things quickly just for the sake of getting through matters. We're going to do this in a way that is fair and allows everybody to ask questions that are appropriate under the circumstances. So that's the process. Beyond that, we'll take some breaks. I'll make sure you know what those breaks are, and we will get into it. So the first part of this is I'm going to go ahead and swear you in as the panel and then just ask you some general questions. So if I could please have you stand and raise your right hand. You shall give true answers to all questions as may be asked by the court or its authority, including all questions asked by the parties or their attorneys concerning your qualifications as jurors. In the case of the state of Georgia versus Travis McMichael, Gregory McMichael, and William R. Bryant. Please respond accordingly. I do or I will. Go ahead, have a seat. Ladies and gentlemen, this is the case again of the state of Georgia versus Travis McMichael, Gregory McMichael, and William R. Bryant, who are charged each individually and as parties concerned in the commission of a crime by the grand jury of Glynn County with the offenses of murder, felony murder in 4 counts, aggravated assault in 2 counts, false imprisonment, and criminal attempt to commit a felony. Are any members of this panel related by blood or marriage to Travis McMichael, Gregory McMichael, William R. Bryan, or Ahmaud Arbery? Have you, for any reason, formed and expressed any opinion in regard to the guilt or innocence of the accused? If you have, please raise your hand. Starting with 469, 474. That glare on this, it's hard to see for you right in front. 475, 481. 482, 485. Let's see over the back there.
479.
I'm sorry?
479.
Oh, I missed 479. I'm sorry, I didn't see your hand. 479. I'm sorry.
488.
488. 489. 495. 500. 498. 500. And 501. Everybody? Have you any prejudice or bias resting on your mind, either for or against the accused? Please raise your hand if you believe you have prejudice or bias resting on your mind, either for or against the accused. Thank you. I'm going to ask this in reverse. If your mind is not perfectly impartial between the state and the accused, please raise your hand. 481, 482, 485, 495, 500. All right. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Those are all the questions that will be posed by the court. As I indicated, the parties will have an opportunity now to ask you questions, first by the state. The state ready to proceed? Yes, Judge. Go ahead.
Good morning, everybody. Everybody hear me okay? My name is Paul Camarillo, and along with Larissa Oliver and Linda Danakoski, we represent the state of Georgia in this case. Do any of you think that you know any of the three of us? Is there anyone here who does not currently reside in Glynn County? No cards? Is there anyone here under the age of 18? No cards? Is there anyone here ever been convicted of a felony and not had your rights restored? No cards? Is there anyone here that sat on the grand jury that returned this indictment in June of 2020? No cards? Is there anyone here who currently works in law enforcement and is post-certified either locally or federally? 484. Is there anyone here who is 70 years of age or older and does not wish to serve on this jury? 70 years and does not wish to serve on this jury? No cards? Is there anyone here who is a full-time student currently enrolled and attending classes? No cards? Is there anyone here who is a full-time caretaker of a child under 6 years of age? reasonable alternative means of providing for that child's care? Number 500. 500 and 510. Is there anyone here who is a full-time caretaker of someone who is disabled or an elderly person and who needs full-time care and has no reasonable alternative for care for that person? The same question, but for elderly or disabled person. No cards? Is there anyone here who has difficulty understanding the English language? No cards? Is there anyone here who has difficulty hearing? No cards? I'm now going to ask you some questions that you may have a question of whether or not this question applies to you. And if you think it applies to you, go ahead and raise your cards because we'll have a chance to follow up and clear it up. Okay, so if you're not sure, if you're on the fence of whether it applies, go ahead and raise your number and we'll follow it up later. So we believe that this trial will last from the day up until through November 19th. Okay, is there anyone here that has a non-work related conflict, like you're having some sort of surgery or some sort of tickets to a vacation that was pre-planned and you can't get out of it? Is there anything like that, a conflict that will prevent you from being on this jury? 495, 489. Anyone else? Is there anybody here that's related by blood to the current Brunswick Judicial Circuit District Attorney Keith Higgins or any of the assistant DAs? Is there anybody here that knows DA Keith Higgins? 495. Is there anybody here that's related by blood or marriage to the former District Attorney Jackie Johnson or any of her former ADAs in the Brunswick Judicial Circuit? Jackie Johnson, anybody related to her? Does anybody know her? No cards? Is there anyone here who has an opinion about last year's DA election where Jackie Johnson was defeated by Keith Higgins? Anybody have an opinion on that? 495. Does anyone here have an opinion about why the Cobb County District Attorney's Office, that's us three here from Marietta, is prosecuting this case and it has been assigned this case by the Georgia Attorney General? Anybody have an opinion on that? No cards? Sorry, 495. Thank you, ma'am. Is there anybody here that will be unable to get the state of fair trial because we're from Cobb County and we're from Marietta? No cards? Is anybody here related by blood or marriage to the current Waycross DA George Barnhill or any of his ADAs? No cards? Does anybody know Mr. Barnhill? Does anybody know George Barnhill Jr.? He's a former Glenn County ADA, now practicing law here in Brunswick. George Barnhill Jr. Anybody related by blood or marriage to Tom Durden out of the Atlantic Judicial Circuit? Tom Durden. Does anybody know him? No cards? Does anybody know any of the defense attorneys in this case? We'll start right here with Jason Sheffield and Bob Rubin. Anybody know them, related to them? No cards? We have Laura and Frank Hogue. Anybody know or related to them? And we have Mr. Kevin Goff. Anybody related to him or know him? Does anybody know Mr. Ahmaud Arbery? And what's your number again, man? 510. anybody know Mr. Arbery's mother?
Yes, we will.
I'm sorry, 467. Anybody else know Mr. Ahmaud Arbery? What about his mother, Miss Wanda Cooper Jones? 467. Does anybody know his father, Marcus Arbery Sr., or his brother, Marcus Arbery Jr.? 485. 467. And what's your number, sir? 498. 498. That's 485, 467, and 498. Does anybody know our judge, Judge Walmsley? Does anybody personally know any of the defendants? Travis McMichael, Greg McMichael, William Bryant? Anybody know them? Does anybody know Mr. McMichael's wife, Greg McMichael's wife, Lee McMichael? 466. Does anybody know Lindsay McMichael? That's the sister of Travis. 466. Anybody know Amy Elrod? 482 and 469. Has anybody here ever served on a jury? And by that I mean going through the entire process, like we sat here, got picked for 12, and finished that trial up. 495. Anybody else? 481. 481 and 495. Were either of you the foreperson? No cards? And without telling us the verdict, were you able to reach a verdict? 495, yes.
It was dismissed before.
And 481, no. Has anyone ever served on a grand jury? 469. Has anyone looked up any court documents on the clerk's website for this case? So when you became a juror, got summoned, there were some court documents up on that website. Did anybody look up any of the documents on this case? Sorry. 481. You're right directly behind 461. 481. Does anyone here serve in the military? Anybody here serve in the military? No cards? Does anyone here have prior law enforcement training or law enforcement experience? 484. Is anybody here related to anybody in law enforcement? 488. Same question, but close friends or family. Anybody have close friends or family that's in law enforcement? 488 is related to somebody in law enforcement. Close friends and family? 484 and 488.
485 also.
And 485. 484, 488, and 485. Please raise your hand if you've ever worked in the field of social work. Anybody work in the field of social work? No cards? 479. Anybody work in the field of counseling, psychology, or psychiatry, or have a background in those fields? 496. Please raise your hand if you have any work experience in the legal field or legal training. 502. right thing. Just raise your hand if you're not sure. 495. Please raise your hand if you have any work experience in the criminal justice system. If you're a probation officer, counselor, working in the prison system, 484. Anybody else? Is anybody here related to or has a very close friend or family that works in any district attorney's office? Anywhere? No cards? Does anyone here have any medical training past CPR? So other than CPR? 488, 484, 510, 489. Anybody else? Is anyone here related by blood or marriage or have a close family friend that is a criminal defense attorney? Criminal defense attorney. No cards? Does anyone here personally know a lawyer in the criminal justice field, either criminal defense attorney or prosecutor? Personally know them? No cards? Is there anybody here who has had a bad experience with law enforcement? Police, anybody have a bad experience? No cards? 498, 498, 475. Anybody else? Anybody here have a good experience with law enforcement, such that it stuck out in your mind? Good experience. 502, 501. Is there anybody here who's had a bad experience with a prosecutor or a DA's office? No cards? Is there anybody here who's had a bad experience with a criminal defense attorney? Bad experience with criminal defense? No cards? Please raise your hand if you have been accused, arrested, prosecuted, or convicted of any crime, DUI or higher. So we're not talking about traffic tickets, parking tickets, anything like that, but a DUI or higher. Arrested, prosecuted, convicted. 475. 489. Doesn't matter if you're convicted, arrested, or prosecuted, or convicted. 489. 508. Anybody else? Please raise your hand if you've had a close friend or relative that's ever been accused, arrested, prosecuted, or convicted. Any of those, whether they're convicted or not. 495. I'll start over here. 466. 467. 469. 475. 482. 485. 479. 489. 495. 496. 498. Sorry, so this card is underneath the tie. 501. Thank you, sir. 502. 508. And 510. Please raise your hand if you or a close relative or a close family friend has ever been falsely accused of a crime. You believe you've been falsely accused of a crime. Or a family member. raise your hand if you've ever been a victim of a violent crime against your person. So like a robbery, assault, that sort of thing. Victim of a crime. That's 498. 469. 479. Please raise your hand if a close relative or close family friend has ever been a victim of a violent crime or crime against the person. Same question, but for a close family friend or family. 482, 479, 498, 498. Anybody else? Has anybody here ever witnessed a violent crime in progress? Witnessed a violent crime in progress? Anybody here ever take cell phone video of a crime in progress? Anybody take cell phone video of a crime in progress? No cards? Please raise your hand if you've ever been, if you or a close family friend or family has ever been the victim of a burglary or home invasion. Burglary or home invasion. 475, 479, 482, 489, 495, 498, 501, 'Please raise your hand if you or a close family friend or family member has ever had a handgun, rifle, or shotgun, any kind of firearm stolen out of your car or home. Firearm stolen out of your car or home. It's got to be a close family friend, somebody you talk to quite often. 482, 495, 496, 'Has anybody here ever called 911 to report a crime? Like a DUI or some sort of thing like that? Anybody call 911 to report a crime? 488, 495, 498, 502. Has anybody here ever have to give a statement to a law enforcement officer other than for like maybe like a traffic accident or minor fender bender? Has anybody given a statement to law enforcement? 488, 475, 479. If you're not sure, raise your hand. 469, 495, 498, 'Has anybody here ever been a witness at a trial? Anybody ever been a witness at a trial? Like you had to raise your hand and give testimony, witness at a trial? 484, 498, 469, 501. Anybody else? Has anybody here ever taken it upon yourself to investigate a crime yourself, other than your professional athlete? Taking it upon yourself to investigate a crime. 495. What else? Please raise your hand if you know somebody else who has ever taken it upon themselves to investigate a crime. Somebody else. 495. Take a look around and tell me if you recognize any of your fellow jurors that are sitting here today. Anybody recognize anybody? 498, 474, 510. When y'all met at Selden Park the other day, does anybody recognize somebody from that day over at Selden Park? 466, 467, 474, 475. 481. Can you sign it with just one? Not 467. Stay there. 481. Thank you. 481. 485. 484. 488. 495. 489. 496. 498. 500. 502. 501. 508. I'm going to ask this in reverse. Is there anybody here who does not own a handgun or rifle, some sort of firearm? You or somebody in your home does not own a gun. 489, 495, 502, 498, 501, 510. Has anybody here ever had to carry a gun as part of their job? 484. Anybody else? Has anybody here ever had firearms training outside of their work? Firearms training. 481. 488. 500. Anybody else? Please raise your hand if you've lived in Glenn County for less than 5 years. Less than 5 years. 484. Okay. Anyone here live in Satilla Shores neighborhood? Anybody here live in Satilla Shores? Has anyone here ever previously lived in Satilla Shores? No cards for both questions. Is anyone here especially familiar with Satilla Shores because maybe friends or family live there or you have occasion to go there a lot? 475. Anybody here live in Royal Oaks neighborhood? The Royal Oaks neighborhood. Anyone here previously lived in Royal Oaks? Anybody here have friends or family that live in Royal Oaks? Or familiar? 466. Does anyone here live in Fancy Bluff neighborhood? Anybody have friends or family there? 485. 467. 498. Anybody know the street Boykin Ridge? 488. 469. So if we decide that you're the perfect juror, is there anybody here, you make it on the jury, have any sort of religious, moral, or ethical conviction that would prevent you from making a decision on the case? So you get back there and you decide, I'm just not going to make a decision whatsoever. I don't care what the evidence is or what we talk about, because I have a religious, moral, or ethical conviction that I cannot decide this case? Anybody fall into that category? No cards? Does anybody here have any sort of private reason why they can't pass judgment on this case? Some sort of private reason where they cannot make a decision on this case? No cards? Is there anybody here who does not belong to any sort of religious, fraternal, or social organization? So you don't go to church, you don't go to mosque, synagogue, you don't have a bowling league or book club, you just don't do any of that. 488, 484, 500, 475, 502. Is there anybody here who has a relative or a close family friend, or you yourself, has ever been arrested and felt like you were treated unfairly by the police or the criminal justice system? So you, a close family friend, a family member, been arrested and felt that you were just treated unfair by the police or the justice system. 479, 467, 498. Please raise your hand if you, a relative or close family friend, has ever been arrested for or convicted of kidnapping or false imprisonment. Arrested for kidnapping or false imprisonment. No cards? Please raise your hand if you or a relative or close family friend has ever been arrested for shooting somebody, shooting at somebody. Nobody's been arrested for shooting anybody. That's 508. Please raise your hand if you, a relative or close family friend, has ever been arrested for murder. Arrested for murder in any way. Not necessarily a shooting, but some type of murder. 485. Is there anybody here who feels they will not be able to follow the law that the court gives you, even if you think that the law may or should be different? So the judge will give you the law, but you think, I don't agree with that, maybe it should be different. Anybody here would not be able to follow that? Everybody can follow the law? No cards? Is there anybody here who wants to serve on this jury? Anybody here want to serve on this jury? 479. So now we're gonna read a list of potential witnesses for the state, and please raise your hand if you feel like you know them, okay?
Hi, ladies and gentlemen, my name is Linda Dunikoski. I'm going to try and read this list to you fairly quickly, but you've got to stop me because you're going to hear a name and you might think, hey, I know that person. So get our attention, wave those hands big, okay? And don't feel free to interrupt me if I've gone on to the next name and I need to back up, okay? So the first couple of people we're going to talk about are Glenn County police officers. So we've got William Duggan, Sheila Ramos, Chris Lowther, Ricky Shane Minshew, Jeffrey Brandenberry, Parker Marcy, Brad Butler, Caitlin Roberts Phillips, Roderick Nohili, Stephen Lowry, Brandon Gregory, Diana Bibby, Sherry Bachelor, 482, Sherry Bachelor. Now, with the Glenn County Police Department 911 call center, we have Kara Richardson or Jamie Dunwoody. 488 knows Jamie Dunwoody. back to Glenn County Police, we also have Christopher Hatcher, Robert Rash. Christopher Hatcher or Robert Rash? Robert Rash, and you're 501? Thank you, sir. Then we have Officer Powers, Officer Stansberry, Officer Owens, Officer Adam Jackson, we also have with the Glenn County Sheriff's Office, Detective Stephanie Herndon Britt. Okay, so now we're going to talk about the Georgia Bureau of Investigation. Georgia Bureau of Investigation has special agents. They also have the crime lab. So we're going to do special agents first. So what we have here for special agents are Jason Seacrest, Jessica Hamilton, Lawrence Kelly, Richard Dial, Brian Smith, Garrett Morton, Amanda Barker, Jennifer Woodward. And I think I missed Glenn County Police Officer Ronald Cooper. All right, so back to our crime lab people. James Jim Gordon, Amanda Cook, Jesse Worley, Ann Kistler-Rao, Brian Leopard, Dr. Edmund Donahue. All right, so I'm going to list off now some other names of people you might know. Joe Mandela, Joseph Allen Bartlett, Subi Lawrence, Annabelle Beasley, Christy Barber, Matthew Albenzi, John Ronald Olson, who goes by Ronnie Olson, Diego Perez or his wife Brooke Perez, Mr. Larry English or his wife Amy English, Miss Kelly Parr or her father Randall Parr. You know Miss Kelly Parr? Sure, 482. Daniel Alcott, his wife Christine Alcott, or his mother Judith Alcott. Kim Ballesteros. Carol Flowers, Lauren Bennett, Linda Randall, Ashley Wittenberg, Danielle Stoddard, Cynthia Drummond. Cynthia Drummond, 466. Oh, I'm sorry. I'm going to back up, so I'm going to do this. 466, you know Danielle Stoddard. Okay. And then we also have 469, you know Miss Cynthia Drummond. Anyone else? Great. James Trimmings, Catherine Miles, Cody Johannes, Derek Thomas, Hillary Lauren Brady Germano, 466, you know Miss Germano. Josh McGowan, Kyle Meisner, Nicole Lee Joyner, Rusty Russ Wayne Johnson, 466, you know Mr. Johnson. Mr. Zach Langford, Ashley Langford, Heaven Bryan, Peyton Thompson, all right, now ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Camarillo asked you a lot of questions. Now, as you sat here, you probably thought to yourself, oh, I should have raised my hand to that question 2 times ago. So is there anything you failed to raise your card for that you want to let us know about now? I'm going to go down the line. Yes, sir, you are 474. What do you want to raise your card to? So a hardship for 474 on a work-related business trip. Okay, thank you for letting us know about that. And 484. Okay, so 484, business-related hardship this weekend through Wednesday of next week. Right. And then we've got 496. Yes, ma'am. Thank you for letting us know. That is something we do need to know. So we'll get back to you on the house closing on November 15th. 496. Thank you. All right. And then we've got 501. You know Zach Langford? All right. So you know Zach Langford's father. Thank you, sir. And then 502. Thank you for letting us know. We appreciate that. 502. Sure, arrested as a minor, but it was expunged. Thank you for letting us know. Anyone else miss something that they thought of? All right. There you go. Great. We'll hand you over to the defense. They'll probably have some general questions for you.
Mr. Ship.
Good morning, everyone. We have been asking a lot of questions of people similarly situated to yourselves. And it takes time. But they have been very candid with us, and I mean very candid, open, and honest with us. And we are not afraid of that. We welcome it. And so we really seek your honest opinions and thoughts and feelings about things. Do not be concerned with our feelings. So, in working with you today, it's going to take some time, but we intend to get through it as diligently as we can. Starting from the very beginning, now that you've been sitting here for a minute, I want to put a finer point on whether or not you know Travis McMichael, previously Coast Guard or Metson Marine, if those facts help place him for you. No hands. Very good, thanks. His father, Greg McMichael, and if you can't see, you're welcome to stand up and come around. Thank you. And lastly, Mr. Roddy Bryant.
I don't know him, and I know him through his wife or his girlfriend.
Okay. 482, there is some knowledge and association, yes. And 469, some knowledge of an association, maybe through another individual. Very good. Thank you. Now, based on everything that you may have heard in the media or in the community, what you may have seen on television, please raise your hand if you have gotten to the point where you have now a negative feeling about Travis McMichael. Just keep them up, please. I'm going to go slowly. 467, 469, 474, 475, 481, 482, 485, 488, 489. I will go slower. You can put your hand down 1 second. Did I call you, sir? 467? Okay. I did 485, 489, 488, 495. Your tag happens to be backwards. Nope. Yep. You've got it in the right location, though. That's perfectly high. 500, 501. There's a reflection on yours back there in the second row. I can't read it. 508, and 510. Perfect. Thank you all. Same question for the same reasons, but for Mr. Greg McMichael. 467, 469, 474, 475, 481, 482, 485, 488, 489, 495. It's glaring again, sir. 498, 500, 501, 508, 510. And lastly, the same question for the same reasons as it applies to Mr. Bryan. 469, 474, 475, 481, 482, 485, 488, 489, 495, 498, 500, 508, and 510. Please share with us by raising your hands if you have negative feelings about criminal defense lawyers for any reason whatsoever that you hold in your heart or mind something negative about lawyers that do what we do. No hands. Thank you. I believe we've answered the firearm question sufficiently by show of hands that don't own any firearms. Okay. Have any of you ever decided to vote on a particular political candidate based on their platform or their policy on limiting gun rights? You've chosen a candidate because you like the platform to limit gun rights or the types of guns that may be in circulation or may be available. You are 479. Thank you. Please raise your hand if you're opposed to laws that allow people to carry firearms, whether exposed or concealed, to carry them anywhere, into public places, etc. 481, 488, 498, 501. Thank you. Please raise your hand if any of you participated in any of the demonstrations or marches related to the social justice movement, either before or after the shooting and incident in this case. Social justice movement, however you want to define that, if you participated in it, we'd like to understand that a little bit more. 500, our only participant. Okay. Please raise your hand if you have supported in any way the Black Lives Matter movement. Now, this support can be anything. It can be financial support. It could be putting up a yard sign, putting up a bumper sticker, posting about it, reposting about it, including all of the movement about justice for Ahmaud. So if you've supported the Justice for Ahmaud, or I Run with Ahmaud, through bumper stickers or posting or platforming, whatever, that could include Say His Name, Ahmaud Arbery, as well as giving support for hate crime bill legislation. You just raise your hand so we can see all those hands. Very good. 467, 469, 479, 482, 488, 489, 498, 500, 510. Thank you. Please indicate if you feel you have ever been denied an opportunity because of your ethnicity, your background, or your race. $485, $498, $501, $508. Please indicate if you've ever been falsely accused of doing anything based on your ethnicity or your race. $498. $498. You agree with this statement? Please raise your hand. The old Georgia state flag, the one that was flown between 1956 and 2002, is a racist symbol. Yes. 479. If you agree with this statement, please raise your hand. People of color are not treated fairly in our criminal justice system. Raise your hand if you agree. 467, 474, 475, 479, 485, 489, 495, 498, 500, 501, 508, and new on the scene, 502. Thank you. Even more focused than the criminal justice system, you agree that police in this country do not treat black and white folks equally. You don't have to have a specific experience with it, but if you feel that way locally, statewide, or nationally, we just raise your hand. 467, 479, 485, 489, 495, 498, 500, 501, 502, 508. Did I miss you, sir? I apologize. 475. If you agree with this statement, please raise your hand. Do you think that a psychologist or psychiatrist can find mental illness just about anybody? Four 466, 479, 481, 488, 496, 500, 501, 502. Thank you. If you have an opinion about the time that elapsed in this case between the incident date of February 23rd, 2020, and the arrest date in May of 2020, if an opinion about the delay or the time lapsed between incident date and arrest date, please raise your hand. 466, 467, 469, 479, 481, 482, 485, 488, 489, 495, 496, 489. Sorry, it's 498. I did it backwards. Sorry. 500, 501, 508, 510. Last question. If any of you have any medical issues ongoing or any physical, visual, hearing, whatever there may be that would cause you to lose focus or concentration during the trial, absent a morning break or lunch break or afternoon break, that you feel would impair your ability to stay focused on the trial, if you'd please indicate. We want to have your full attention at all times. 469, 498, 508. Wonderful. We look forward to speaking with you all soon. Thank you so much.
All right, thank you, ladies and gentlemen. So what we're going to do at this point is we're going to take a recess and then get everybody from over here in the courtroom and start with some individual follow-up. During the recess, I'm going to ask that you step out of this jury assembly room, and I'm going to give you some instructions. The instructions are going to apply to all of you until you are further instructed by the court. The instructions are: do not discuss this case or this process or anything having to do with this with anybody, including your fellow jurors. Do not go looking for any information about the case, meaning don't get online, don't check your news feed, don't go looking for any information on the internet or any other place that may be out there. And do not go looking for any information about the case. If anybody approaches you about the case, which means your fellow jurors or anybody else for that matter, please notify the court and we'll go ahead and address that. Also, during this brief recess, just grab your personal belongings. When you come back in, we're going to bring you back into this room, and again, we'll be calling individuals back into the other courtroom for some follow-up. So, with those instructions, we're going to take a short recess. I thank you for your time. I thank you for your patience, and we'll see you all in a little bit.
All right, you guys, we are going to stop there. Let me stop sharing my screen. Okay. And so because I didn't get a chance, I just went right into the courtroom live, you guys. I didn't get a chance to drop the disclaimer. Let me go ahead and drop that. This site is for education and entertainment purposes. Therefore, everything that I say after this, you guys, is allegedly. Okay. Also, I want to thank all my sensations. I appreciate you all for coming in, my old subscribers and my new subscribers coming in. We are the sensations over here. I do appreciate you guys' support. Hit that like, share, and subscribe, you guys. It is absolutely free. You can also download the Spreaker app. My podcast is on the Spreaker app, which also give you all access to all major platform outstreams for us, like iTunes, Spotify, iHeart, all of that. Okay. So definitely download that Spreaker app, because I will be over there live starting next week, you guys. And that's just the audio. So there's no video, just straight audio. Okay. So yeah, we dropped the disclaimer, and yeah, so let me go ahead and drop this one too. Yeah.
It's too nasty.
Okay. Yeah. And in case y'all forgot and didn't know,
It's too nasty.
Cynt said it. Yeah.
You, dollar, you.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Yeah. Everybody rolling, we gon' ride when it's time. Yeah. Shout out to Double Dollar, my son. Yeah. That part. So yes, you guys, until we go live again and we're gonna do an update, pay attention to the jurors. Remember, I told y'all, pay attention to the jurors that are being selected. And until next time, you guys, I'm out.